Putin has sent a clear message to Trump: step aside and let me handle this, I can solve it on my own. A recent documentary by Cakesin Global featured a phone call between the two leaders, with both later telling reporters the conversation was substantive and frank, diplomatic code for addressing key issues while acknowledging disagreements. But beneath the rhetoric, a deeper analysis reveals a stark contrast in outcomes, a strategic win for Putin and a tacit defeat for Trump. First, let's assess the success of the call. US Middle East envoy Steve had predicted breakthroughs, but Trump's post-call rush to claim negotiations can start immediately, and his abrupt pivot to blaming the EU reek of deflection. The reality: Putin raised non-negotiable demands that left Trump speechless: permanent Ukrainian neutrality from NATO, de-Nazification of Kyiv's government, and an end to foreign military presence in Ukraine, plus a fresh demand to halt NATO expansion. These struck at the core of Western security architecture, leaving Trump unable to concede without betraying US allies. For 90 minutes, accounting for translation, the conversation meandered through platitudes until Putin dropped his bombshell. Negotiations could only begin if the root causes of the conflict, as defined by Russia, were addressed. This refers to Moscow's 2020 to pre-invasion ultimatums: no NATO membership for Ukraine, dismantling of neo-Nazi elements in Kyiv's regime, and withdrawal of Western military support. For any past US president, these would be deal breakers, as they undermine 3 decades of NATO enlargement and Western dominance in European security. Yet Trump's response, "I'll relay this to Zelensky," reeks of evasion, followed by his sudden declaration that this is a European problem, not America's, effectively washing his hands of the crisis. This isn't just a policy difference, it's a clash of civilizational values. Unlike Biden, Obama, or even mainstream Republicans, Trump rejects the post-Cold War consensus of US-led global hegemony. His statement, "This is not our war," reflects a radical departure from America's role as leader of the free world, embracing a transactional worldview where US interests trump alliances. For Putin, this is a strategic coup. By sowing doubt in NATO's unity, he strengthens Russia's hand in reshaping Europe's security order to exclude Western dominance. The irony: 3 decades after NATO's eastward expansion laid the groundwork for this conflict, Trump's retreat threatens to validate Putin's revisionist vision. While the war's legality under international law is unambiguous, Russia's invasion is widely condemned as aggression. The inability of the West to defeat Russia has emboldened Putin to redraw rules. Trump's willingness to entertain Moscow's demands, however, reluctantly signals a dangerous capitulation, one that could leave Ukraine as a mere buffer state in a Putin-dominated sphere. In the end, this call wasn't about peace, it was about power. Putin's unflinching stance showcased his mastery of diplomatic brinkmanship, while Trump's evasions revealed the fragility of US resolve. As the West grapples with this new reality, one thing is clear: the world order is no longer defined by Western ideals, but by the raw pragmatism of leaders like Trump and Putin. The United States today is no longer the same as it was back then. In this case, this is the way of measurement and the number. Because the ways are different, they cannot work together. This does not mean that Trump and Putin cannot work together, but that Trump and his predecessors, whether they are mainstream politicians from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, have completely different ways and cannot work together. So it is precisely because of Trump that Putin and Russia under his leadership can see a new hope after more than 3 years of the Russia-Ukraine war. This is the essence of the real problem. So when we touch upon the essence of this political problem, in fact, our answers to whether the Russia-Ukraine war can end, how the Russia-Ukraine war will end with a winner or a loser, and some of the profound issues reflected behind it, probably our answers or our explanations, and our potential for the future world are quite a lot. It's about to come out. Okay, now let's go back to yesterday. After Trump and Putin finished talking, he should be said to have sucked in a breath of cold air. In this case, what does this have to do with me? Different values from me. What does it have to do with me? So Trump talked to the leaders of the European Union, which should be Germany, France, and the European Union. The chairman of the Commission, Ford, Leon, and some other collective calls. Then he talked to Zelensky. After that, he met with American reporters. When he met with American reporters, he said, "This is not our war, nor is it my war. If the United States had not intervened in this war, it would have been much better." What does all this mean? All this means that Trump has been indefinitely obsessed with the issue of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Of course, Putin wanted to give him a face and not tear him apart. For Putin, in fact, all these subtext signals, the subtext is to tell Trump to stay away. Don't bother with this matter since this matter has nothing to do with you. Don't get involved in this muddy water. I'll solve it myself. First, as long as you don't interfere with me, as long as you don't help Ukraine, you're helping me. This is a clear signal sent by Putin to Trump. Although the original words may not be expressed in this way, Trump, who is smart, should understand it. Even I understand it. How can Trump not understand it? What about the first and second ones? Putin's subtext to Trump is that since you don't bother with this matter, I won't blame you. And I don't care about your role in this issue at all. Just don't interfere. So, Putin actually told Trump with a very clear gesture and signal to leave this muddy water and let me solve this problem. You just need to lobby the EU not to interfere. Oil tax. NATO does not interfere in Ukraine. I can handle it myself. So Trump's next step is if Russia and Ukraine want to start negotiations. It is very likely that negotiations will be started without strong intervention from the United States. Then the next step will depend on European countries and NATO. NATO is frankly unreliable. The current NATO is no longer the NATO when the Russian-Ukrainian war broke out more than 3 years ago. NATO is not because the Secretary General of NATO has changed, but because the American leader has changed. So what is left? What can Ukraine rely on? These 3 European countries: Britain, France, Germany. Of course, these 3 countries also have the European Commission. But the European Commission itself does not have military leadership capabilities. It also has no position, in American terms, of strength. It has no power status. However, these 3 European countries, Britain, France and Germany, are comforting the EU countries because Britain is no longer a member of the EU. Are these 3 European countries willing, can they, or to what extent, support Ukraine in all aspects, from the moral, political, strategic, and even military and weapon aspects? It all depends on the 3 European leaders. Within a year, for Ukraine, the United States has long been unreliable. But for itself, I am not very confident that these 3 European countries can stand up bravely, and stand up with practical actions. So in this case, the whole world may have to accept a helpless reality. This war may end with a Russian victory, at least in stages, or close this scene. Then this can be said to be unprecedented in the modern and contemporary history of mankind. The consequences of this may exceed the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and any other war. And for the 21st century, as you all know, the 20s of the 21st century are just over the halfway point. In 2025, it is difficult for us to imagine what will happen in 2045, 2055, or even 2065 in the next 20, 30, or 40 years. But we know one thing for sure, that is, the underlying structure of this world is undergoing a very violent impact. The direct cause of this very violent impact on the underlying structure is the scientific and technological revolution. Then the scientific and technological revolution will continue to be transmitted upwards, transmitted to the economic field, and will promote the inequality between the rich and the poor. Transmitted to the social field, it will become the extreme anxiety, confusion and turmoil of public opinion. Then transmitted to the country, Western countries, there may be countless revolutionary actions in the country. The revolution is divided into inside and outside the house. If it is inside the house, there will be more and more populist leaders elected through democratic elections from extreme right leaders. If it is outside the house, it is very likely to produce what we call social revolution and social unrest. Then authoritarianism will prevail externally, because authoritarianism is the only way to solve problems in a phased and strategic way. And it is precisely within Western society and Western countries, starting from the United States, that until Europe, like Germany's Alternative for Germany, France's Democratic Party, etc., they are able to solve the problem strategically and in stages. So in this case, authoritarianism is prevalent, which is probably an inevitable trend in the next 20 to 40 years of this century. So where is the world going? The Russo-Ukrainian war not only determines the outcome between Russia and Ukraine, but also determines the outcome of the European continent. And to some extent, it is a system contest for mankind, which strategically and in stages determines the outcome. Let's observe how to proceed. However, what we need more is some more basic thinking, and at the same time, we can stand at a higher level to look forward and strive to propose a solution for the next 3 to 40 years for mankind, or the 50 years. But at least at this time in 2025, we can probably only make such a judgment at present, and I think this judgment is a judgment at a historical turning point, and its significance obviously far exceeds the Russo-Ukrainian war, winning or losing itself. Thank you very much for your attention. See you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you all.